Welcome to the Lakers Central live stream. We're doing a little pregame show here for Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. I know the Lakers fan base is excited off of that huge Anthony Davis buzzer beater from the other night, but we got to be ready for Game 3, man. What's going on, Vinay? How you feeling, man?
I am feeling good. Still very very happy with that performance that Anthony Davis had. I'm glad that he's gotten his opportunity to kind of make a name for himself with his fourth quarter heroics in Game Two, and um, like kind of at like that's gonna go into like Laker lore and
Yeah.
history, and so I'm just so glad that he was able to do that, because things were getting real tight down the stretch for the Lakers. So what were your thoughts, like what did you think like when he made that shot?
I mean, I was in my basement. My wife and I, we were downstairs watching it, and we went down a point, and I was just thinking, Jokic was amazing down the stretch, but AD was amazing down the stretch also. And I
Hmm.
I didn't know what the Lakers were going to draw up, but they draw that play up. Rondo inbounds the ball, and LeBron sets a pick, non-pick, whatever the hell it was, and
Yeah.
AD comes off a curl and gets open. And I mean, honestly, man, he drains it like he was like Kevin Durant or somebody at his size to hit that three,
Yeah.
I was standing up, and he hits the shot, and I yell, drop to my knees, and I slam my hands on the floor. And my wife, she's on the couch behind me. She gets up and she's screaming. And what was great about it for me was that I've had all these game winning moments with the Lakers that my wife actually hasn't experienced with me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Many of them were during the Shaq Kobe era when her and I didn't know each other, right?
Hmm.
And there's a handful during the Kobe Powell era, but she wasn't she was with me at the tail end when they won their final championship. But this was like the one game winner that we were both together in the same
Right.
room,
Right.
and it was nuts that she went nuts too. But I couldn't have written it up better, man. I mean, I don't want it to come down to a game winner,
Yeah, for
but
sure. I mean, yeah, for sure. We don't we don't want to
right.
squeak by, but I mean, you gotta give props to the Nuggets, man. They're not gonna go down without a fight in any game. So
No, they're not. I mean,
yeah.
I actually felt really good for Anthony Davis. Like all the talk about him when he wanted to leave New Orleans, and people were saying, well, he can't lead a team. He's soft. He's this, he's
Hmm.
that. He can't handle the bright lights, right? All that stuff. And the biggest opportunity, the biggest stage, he's the one that gets the ball. He's the one, basically he's willing us in that game down the stretch, and he hits
Yep.
that game winner. And it was just like, no, he can handle LA. He's
Oh yeah.
performed the entire playoffs. I mean, I was just so happy that he hit that shot. And I'm like, you know what? We're in good shape post LeBron. Like
Yep.
that's kind of how I felt after that. I know we are no matter what, but
Yeah.
that shot was like, we'll be all right post LeBron.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would, aside from just being happy for him as a player, especially considering all the stuff that people were saying about him, like,
Right.
is this guy really a Laker, like the next Laker great big man? Whatever it is, I was happy for him just as a player to just find some success. I think so. I was in the same situation. Well, I was in the same situation. My wife and my daughter were actually eating downstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was watching the game in the office. So my wife watches a couple of games with me, but she won't watch too many. We had a situation where one time the game was really close, and she started asking me a bunch of questions, and I just like turned and looked at her. I said, "Look, you can't talk to me right now, and I don't mean this like I don't want to be mean to you, but." I need to pay attention to this, and I can't answer it. Yeah, it's like being at a
Yeah.
movie, and you like, look, I can't explain this to you right now because there's something happening on the screen. So after that, I think she kind of understood like kind of how I watch these games and like how
Mm-hmm.
intensely I'm like focusing on stuff or whatever. But one of the things that I didn't drop to my knees, but I definitely got up and started punching the air a lot, like in like just like finally that we had that moment. I'm actually kind of glad that the Lakers blew that lead because I feel like maybe they got caught into a little bit of like a false sense of security with
Yeah.
that big blowout in Game One. So even though it didn't end up in a loss, it definitely was a punch in the face sort of response by the Nuggets. And I thought the Lakers played very like LeBron played uncharacteristically bad, like surprisingly bad in the second half.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, sometimes you get duds like that, and he and that's not that's just the second half. The first half he was sensational, But obviously, it's pretty clear on the second half. Denver was like, we can't let LeBron get to the rim. And then
Right.
I think like the refs calling a couple charges on him kind of like made him like think twice. Like, all right, because obviously he doesn't want to have the turnovers and stuff like that. And then the fact that Denver was like in the bonus for like the last 6 minutes
Yep.
of like the fourth, like that makes things a little bit difficult when you're attacking the rim and stuff like that. So I'm really happy that the Lakers won. I'm really happy for Anthony Davis. I'm really happy that the Lakers pulled that win out because you want to win them no matter what and or how it looks. What do you think is what do you think? How do you think they respond? My big thing has been like Rondo and so they had like 23 turnovers, 24
Mm.
turnovers last game.
Yeah.
Braun had 6 and Rondo had 5. And knowing the kind of competitors those two guys are, like my thing has been you're gonna get like a very knock on wood, you're gonna get like a very sharp LeBron and a very sharp Rondo this game as like a bounce back game. I think Vogel's telling him like, hey, we dodged a bullet here. Like we played really, really bad.
Yeah.
And we can't do that against a team like this.
I mean, you mentioned it when we talked before last game. Like we were probably going to get the Nuggets' best shot,
Mm-hmm.
and Jokic played like a monster. I love seeing
Unbelievable.
I love like there's a generation of fans, man, that don't get to see like the big man battle, right? Like
Yeah,
we got
yeah,
to see it,
yeah.
but like AD and Jokic, they were battling. So Jokic was nasty. Jamal Murray, he played well. Um, Michael Porter Jr., he played well also. There was a few plays where I was like, Porter Jr. was hitting his, he was in his bag a little bit, and I felt
Mm-hmm.
like Kuzma was trying to do
Match
his
him.
thing a little. Yeah, I was like, just back off, man. Like, but yeah, I thought we got Denver's best shot. Like, and
Yep.
so I feel like losing on a game winner like that can either be completely deflating
Yep.
and they could just be like, they could come out tonight and lay a dud. Like, look, man, they came back against Utah, they came back against the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a huge amount of energy to
Mm-hmm.
keep doing that series after series. And to have a game last night where you want to go 1-1, 2-0 or 0-2.
That's tough.
LeBron's teams have never lost when they've been up 2-0,
Yeah,
right? Like,
I just saw that stat. He's
yeah.
undefeated when they go up 2-0 in any series at all. So
I mean, in that moment, like the way Jokic played down the stretch, hitting that big three, bullying AD in the post, at the end of the game,
and
and then
he had that ridiculous tip in, and I was just like,
yeah,
all right, there's some crazy shots going in now.
right,
Even the three he hit, I think Shaq said it on the pregame, or somebody said on the pregame on TNT. That was the only three he made the whole night, and it was some
yep.
ridiculous turnaround baseline, and Caruso is like practically on his back, and I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
how did he make this shot? But go ahead.
No, it's just I want to see how they look in the first quarter. The Nuggets,
Mm-hmm.
like I think they could come out a little bit flat, and if they are, the Lakers need to take advantage.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I thought in game 2, LeBron carried the Lakers in the first half. Like he was
yeah,
on fire. But in the second half, like especially in the fourth quarter, like he slipped a couple times in the paint,
yeah,
turned the ball over. He had that air ball 3. He clearly was kind of out of it a bit in the second half.
yeah.
But if Denver comes out and they're struggling, the Lakers can't play around. They
Yeah.
absolutely have to just knock them out.
Yeah, and one of the things like I looked at when they ran that zone defense in the fourth quarter, it was mainly in the second half they ran it. But that zone defense that they ran in the second half, the Lakers actually were getting to the middle of that zone
Mm-hmm.
and they're kicking it out for wide open guys. The Lakers just didn't hit their shots. Like and that a lot of it was that sort of stuff. And I think the Lakers, I mean, just kind of looking at the tape and like the quality of the shot selection,
Mm-hmm.
if the quality of shots that they were getting were great, like wide open to open
Right.
looks or very late closeouts. They just didn't make them. And I think what may end up happening is that, or if I was a coach, getting inside Vogel's brain, I'm thinking to myself that maybe Vogel told him, just keep doing this. Just keep going. Stay disciplined. Don't rush. You don't have to get the shot directly at the rim, but just
Mm-hmm.
collapse that zone. Make all 5 guys that are around you on the Denver defense have to adjust or help or whatever it is. Find the open guy, and the open guy just shoot it with confidence. And I think we'll see if Denver gets in trouble. They're gonna roll that zone out early. They don't want to because it puts a lot of pressure on like Jokic to have to defend the rim and have to run
Yeah.
all over the court. So they don't want to do that. But if they do that, I expect the Lakers to be ready this time. You'll see like LeBron in the middle of the zone and Rondo in the middle of the zone, like kind of being like that skip passer, that decision
Right.
maker for the team. Um, I'm on the same boat as you. So Murray's a young guy, but he also played 44 minutes in that last game.
Did you
And
see that ridiculous plus minus
yeah,
stat of his?
yeah. And that's definitely a little flawed. It's not, they weren't beating the Lakers by plus 16 in the 44
Right.
minutes. So a lot of
Right.
people read it like, oh, if they only play better those 4 minutes, they would have beaten the Lakers.
Yeah.
No, that's not what that means. What that means is for the 44 minutes he was on the court, they had to play like up to this to remove a deficit or something like that. So,
Hmm.
but anyways, that I don't know if it affects his legs, his fatigue and stuff like that. But I thought that Denver got. It felt like Denver made a lot of really tightly contested shots that last game too. Like some of those Michael Porter Jr. shots that he took, like he had like people draped all over him. And props
Yep.
to him for making it, but those were not easy shots to make. And my like personal philosophy has always been if and this is something I've seen like in the Celtics Heat series is that the Heat do a really really great job of forcing you to take contested shots,
Mhm.
not at the rim but jumpers. The Celtics don't do as good of a job, but they do a good job. But usually, if you can make the other team take much more contested shots or take like poor quality, shots than
Mhm.
you do, you're probably going to win that game. And I thought the Lakers did that up until the second half, where they just started, they went ice cold.
Yep.
And in the second half, I remember I pulled this stat. Anthony Davis went like 8 of 14 on his scoring in general, and the rest of the Lakers went 8 of 27. So that number in general is bad, right? But when you look deeper into those 27 shots, 17 of the 27 shots that the Lakers attempted in the second half, non Anthony Davis shots, were
Mhm.
threes, and that's and they only shot like 3 for 17 or something like that from three. So that's an enormous amount of threes to miss in the second half. If they make maybe let's say another 30% of those shots, the Lakers are probably
Mhm.
winning that game by double digits. And so it's kind of that kind of stuff that you kind of look in between like the lines. And it's props to the Nuggets for keeping the pressure on the Lakers and stuff like that when it comes when it comes to stuff like that. But um, the series trend has been, and from the LeBron folks that I've talked to, Game 3 is where LeBron's like, all right, we did what we did. I've seen everything that you guys have to offer. Now
Mhm.
it's my turn to like take over the game. So I wonder if we get a really good LeBron game. This game, either it may not necessarily be by scoring. It may be
Right.
him facilitating guys once he draws a double team and stuff like that. So, but I think we'll get a less turnovers, more productive version of LeBron this game. Because he takes those things personally. Like it seems like when he has a bad game, he's really hard on himself. And so
Mhm.
I don't know if you saw that clip of as they're walking back to the tunnel and Anthony Davis, like I thought it was really cool. Anthony Davis says that like I got your back and you got mine.
Yeah.
I thought that was really like that was when I heard that. That's when I was like for a second I thought to myself. I was like, oh, you know what? I bet Anthony Davis realized Braun was having a bad second half, and he's like, all right, just give me the ball. Like, let
Right.
me do what I can to help us win. And that synergy is important. It's great for the Laker fans to be able to see that. And I'm just happy that they have that kind of teammate chemistry or relationship or friendship, whatever you want to call it.
Well, the camaraderie on the team has showed all season. I mean that's something that I think the national media, the bloggers, whoever, like I think they ignored that, and they
Mm-hmm.
other teams around the league kind of threw a roster together, and just because they had talent, it was assumed that they would be good.
Yeah.
And this Lakers team not only had talent, but clearly built camaraderie, right? Along
Yeah.
with the coaching staff, ownership, everybody was lock and step along the way. I think you're going to see more aggressive LeBron tonight. But I thought in game 2, there were a lot of charges they called on him.
Yeah.
I thought a lot. So you remember how they got really all the Nuggets key players in foul trouble in
Yeah.
game 2?
Yeah.
That none of that happened in game, or none of that happened in game 1, but none of that happened in game 2, right? Like
Yeah.
all the stuff Dwight did, it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like
it actually went the other way this time.
Yeah.
Dwight had four. No, sorry. Dwight had 5 fouls in 12 minutes of play, and he was like plus 10. So that's crazy. 12 minutes of play, you're plus 10. That's great. But then
Yep.
you draw 5 fouls or 4 fouls, and then I think JaVale had 4, and
Yep.
or Davis had 4, and JaVale had like a whole bunch. Like it went. Yeah, I agree with you. It completely flipped the other way.
But then also like the Nuggets, I think they shot like 33 free throws. The Lakers only shot 19.
Mm.
But One of the things I've noticed this playoff season is that the Lakers, when they shoot, like they shot 18 of 19, I think. So they hit their free throws, and they
Yes.
they're not a great free throw shooting team, but there's been a few games in the playoffs where they needed to hit them, a good clip of their free throws to win these games, and that was a game where had they shot 60 or 70% like they did in the regular season, we lose that game maybe by 10 points. And so those free throws were important. But I think you're going to see an engaged LeBron tonight. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and has, a triple-double or something like that. It doesn't have to be a 30 or 40-point triple-double, but I think he's going to be very engaged. I wouldn't be surprised if AD goes for 30 and 10. I mean, he's went for 30 and 10 all playoffs, really.
Look, man, let me tell you something, all right? AD in the playoffs, all right? For anybody that hasn't looked, first of all, he's only playing 35 minutes a game, which is like basically his regular season minutes. So this means that he's taking an entire quarter off, okay? He's not even playing a full quarter. He's shooting 57% overall, while shooting 40% from three. His free throw shooting's come down. He's at about like 78%, but that's that's okay. It's still respectable. And he's obviously grabbing 10 boards, 4 assists, and he's got a steal and a block a game. Those are numbers that are like Shaq-esque numbers.
Yep.
And I know that we don't. One of the things I hate doing, or I try not to do, is to compare guys in our current era because it's different eras of basketball. It's more spacing, all that kind of stuff. But Anthony Davis is playing. I mean, I think everybody can agree. Like Anthony Davis and LeBron are playing in an offense that doesn't necessarily optimize for space. Some of that is their own fault, because Davis won't play the center as much as we'd like. But the fact that the fact that Davis is shooting the way he is. In these kind of lineups with a second big there, or with a guy like Rondo who's not known to be a shooter, and even next to LeBron who's not necessarily an amazing 3-point shooter but has his moments and stuff like that from time to time, that kind of says something. Like when I think about what Anthony Davis is doing right now, and I think to myself, what would happen if the Lakers actually played him in like an optimized offense? His numbers would be like video game numbers. It would be pretty crazy. And the fact that he's doing it and he's being expected to defend to some degree, what I would say probably one of the most skilled, or if not the most skilled big man in the league in Jokic, it tells you something. Jokic is hitting tremendous shots. He can set up his teammates. He's not the defender that like maybe Anthony Davis is, but he puts so much pressure on your defense that if you make even if you rotate slightly in the wrong direction, we've seen how he picks your defense apart. And so like he's having an unreal run, and I'm not going to jinx him by crowning him anything just yet because I want them to win the championship, and I'm too superstitious of a guy. But if the Lakers win a championship, whether or not he gets a Finals MVP or not, that stuff doesn't matter to me. We're going to have to discuss this scoring run that he's been on as compared to like scoring runs like what Dirk did in 2011, where he was like hitting game winners and he was like practically unguardable. And like Davis is in that territory right now where you can't press him because he'll drive by you. You can't lay off of him because he's just going to shoot these jumpers over you. And we're very much in that territory right now. But, obviously we'll wait and see if the Lakers win the championship to have that conversation. But look, man, he's been great. These 2 games in this series, he's been tremendous. He's leading all scorers right now. He's averaging 34 a game right now against Denver. And of all the other players in the conference finals, they're only averaging 25, almost a whole 10 points more than the next guy, which is Jokic and Tatum. So he's been incredible, man. I'm so glad. I'm not gonna disparage the guys that we traded to get him because I love those guys too. But like we get it now. Like I hope Laker fans understand like what he's doing and what he's bringing to the league or to this team.
I think the thing is that you and I, we talked about it a lot with those young guys that we had to trade. Like they probably needed to go to other situations. I just think LA might not have been the best place for a number of different reasons. And I think for Anthony Davis, people throw around the term generational talent. And I think it's important to remember that someone can be a generational talent, but not necessarily get all the generational accolades, right? Like everybody can't win 5 championships. There's a number of reasons why they can't. Anthony Davis is absolutely a generational talent. Now, whether or not he gets the championships, MVPs, all that stuff is another conversation. But when you have an opportunity to get one of those guys, you have to go get that guy almost at all costs. And what the Lakers have done basically throughout their entirety of the franchise is when that guy's been available, they went and got that guy. Shaq, Kareem, Wilt. I mean, just in terms of the big men. And Pau Gasol, man, who I don't think gets nearly the credit he deserves. Pau Gasol might not have been a generational talent, but
he fit. He fit
right.
what it is that the Lakers needed, and I think not to hijack your point, but like the thing that I think Lakers fans probably understand better than maybe some other fans do because the way free agency moves and stuff like that. But fit is so important when it comes to this, not just like only personality fit, but like skill fit and decision making fit. And there's so many small things that go along with that where you can have a coach that's maybe not the best coach in the league or like this, he's not a Greg Popovich tier coach or something like that. But because he understands how pieces fit together within a scheme and how players fit together within a scheme, like what it can do, like how it can amplify certain things when it comes to basketball. Because that's what makes basketball great, you know? It's that you can get a guy who's just a specialist, but you put him next to these two other guys where they have like they don't have like a big gaping hole in that skill set, but because he's there, he makes them he fills a gap and he makes them better at the same time. And so like that's the thing that like I feel like we've got with this Lakers team. And I'll say this, before the season started, there was a lot of conversations when it came to our Los Angeles neighbors as to how do you stack these lineups. These guys are just more talented on the roster, and that may have been true. But I also remember there was a time where Laker fans were consistently telling people the fit has to work. It has to work. Like these guys have to work together. And we were being told as Laker fans that, well, you guys are idiots. There's just so much talent here that it's just not going to work. And I wonder if some of that happened because of Durant going to the Warriors and him just, them just kind of overwhelming the entire league with how good they were. But there was a fit part of that Warriors team.
Durant absolutely fit.
Yeah.
His skill set fit.
Yeah. And so there was no, and it worked because Steph is for all intents and purposes, he's a selfless guy. He doesn't seem like he'll demand shots. Clay doesn't demand shots. And they're also the best, like they're the two greatest shooters of all time, both on ball and off ball. So they'll fit anywhere.
Right.
And I think people got into like this, the NBA audience has gotten into this mode where they think to themselves that like, oh, you can just add these two guys together and voila, it fits. And, obviously the Clippers got bounced early. And so they've now got to deal with all the nonsense that they have to deal with about Paul George and all that sort of stuff and how their teammates feel about the rest of the roster and Doc Rivers. But the Lakers prioritize fit. They said, these are the two guys that we have. We need guys that can fit in with these guys who aren't going to complain about shots. And we see guys like Kuzma, who, he had a starting role. He was a very productive player his first 2 years. He had some slippage his second year, and he has some slippage this year because of his injuries. But he's bought into that. And credit to guys like Jared Dudley and stuff like that who've kind of like helped keep the mentality in the right place. But they've even added guys like Markieff Morris at the deadline who just fit, and that's the thing that makes this team so good. Another guy, Caruso, is another perfect example of another guy that's like that. Just do what we're asking you to do and just trust your teammates, and we'll trust you, and we can be successful. So we've talked before about how many parallels there are between this team and then that 09 team, and even the three-peat Lakers, like how Rick Fox and Fisher and all these guys, they all fit in with each other.
Ron Harper.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I wanted to add on to your point about fit, right? Because for what? So the Lakers won 5 championships over the last 20 years. The Spurs won 5 over the last 20 years. But with the Spurs, all we heard was culture, right? With the Lakers, it was, well, we won because we had talent. It was LA and blah, 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 right? Not only did the Lakers prioritize fit, they prioritized culture, right? So when DeMarcus got hurt, they didn't just throw him to the wolves and get rid of him. They, when they had to let go of him, they still kept him around the franchise, right? Like even when they brought Dion in, he's been injured. I know he's getting up shots tonight, but there's been no issues with Dion. The issues he had in Miami, no issues there. They brought J.R. Smith in, no issues with J.R. Smith, right? Like there's been no mention of the Lakers culture yet. Clearly, there's a great culture. They brought Jason Kidd in. Nobody wanted Jason Kidd to be a coach.
Right.
there's no issues with Jason Kidd backstabbing or anything. So they got the culture right. And then my final point was Frank Vogel. So that final play, whatever he was gonna go with, Rondo asked, "Can he go in?"
Yeah.
Give a lot of credit to Vogel saying, "Okay, I trust you. I'm gonna put you in and inbound that ball."
Yeah.
How many coaches do you think would have said, "No, I'm gonna do what I want to do"?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's it. I didn't even think of that. That's a great point. Like in that's like a split second decision. It's not like he has like minutes or a timeout to make that decision. He's just like, all right, this is what we're doing. Um, even I'm trying to remember. There was one sequence. I think it's right before KCP hits that contested three where he pulled. I want to say he pulled Danny Green out for KCP, or he made a substitution that ended up, and then the guy that subbed in was the one who hit the three. And I was just like, wow, like that could have been somebody else in that spot if he doesn't make that read or that substitution. And I think he was doing like that offense defense thing, and that's why he was doing that. And no, man, your point's exactly right. And then you take that one step further, and then you hear LeBron talk about who the play was supposed to go to, and then you hear Anthony Davis say the same thing. And and then I think Worldwide Wob or whatever, he showed that footage of who was it? Jeremy Grant telling Plumlee to come help because they don't want LeBron to back cut for that drive. And it's like, I was watching it, and then I would rewatch a couple other replays. I'm like, all right, do I see LeBron motion to Rondo like, hey, like AD is going to be open, or do I see AD motion anything? And granted, this is a set play, but the fact that they could basically ad-lib that to some degree, and for obviously AD has to hit that shot for it to be successful, but for them to be able to ad-lib it and never make that clear that's what was going to happen. Because I was watching LeBron, I was like, oh wow, like he's not even going to move. Like where are they throwing this ball to? Until Davis, like makes that curl and he's wide open, and it's.
But that's basketball IQ, right? Like that. That's, and no, Rondo doesn't have a lot of his ability anymore, but that when your inbounder is one of the best passers of all time, one of the brightest basketball minds of all time, and two guys that he's going to throw the ball to is either LeBron James or Anthony Davis. Yeah. They can make that eye contact. He has that rapport with AD. I mean, that was for all that to happen that quickly, to have to make that decision to put Rondo in and LeBron to maybe hear the play that the defense was going to run and like decide not to move.
Yeah.
For all that to happen in such split second. I mean,
and then think about the nuance. Like these are the things that like as when you play basketball, you understand it. But think about the nuance. He has Jokic on him on that baseline. He's defending that pass. Jokic is jumping up in the air because he doesn't want him to throw it over the top, right? Because that's usually what happens. It gets thrown over the top, and then somebody goes right for a score. So Rondo also had the wherewithal, and Davis was ready, that Rondo throws a bounce pass, which buys because Jokic actually did it. He was a great closeout by Jokic, but it's just enough time for Anthony Davis to get that shot off, catch it, get the shot off, without Jokic coming like on a late contest and blocking it from below. And Jokic is a big guy, so he's gonna close the distance. Like when you reflect back and you think about all the small things that have to go right for that play to be successful, that doesn't happen just on an Excel file with the names of the players and what stats they have. That just doesn't happen. It only happens if your teammates are in it with you. They understand the situation. They've rehearsed it, and they just trust each other. Right? Because Rondo could have gone anywhere with that. He could have forced a contested pass to LeBron too.
Yep.
But he went with what it was. And I think the story came out afterwards where Davis said, I think Davis said that he was like frustrated after Jokic scored on him in the post to take the lead or whatever. And Rondo was the one who told him, well, then just go get him back. Right. And, obviously the rest is history. But it was a great game to watch. It was a little bit too much of a roller coaster for me as a Lakers fan, obviously, because we don't want to be blowing huge leads. But it's for any Laker fans that aren't old enough to remember what Shaq and Kobe was, and I think Pete Film Room he mentioned it. These roller coaster of emotions, this adversity that this team is facing, not just from the media, but just on the court, because these are good teams that they're playing. This is what it was like. This is like the Lakers went into games down 15 points in the fourth quarter and had to make these crazy comebacks. Shaq and Kobe were not rolling teams. They would roll the Eastern Conference Finals opponent because there's a huge gap in talent between those two things. But this is what Laker basketball is. Like, some teams will roll them some games, some teams we won't. But when it comes to like these moments, where we have to grind it out for an
Mhm.
ugly win, and maybe it's a game winner, maybe it isn't. The Lakers come through, and I'm just glad that Anthony Davis was the guy to do it, because I do believe that he's a really really great player, and I think he is much better and much closer to the very very best players in the league. And I'm gonna wait before I start pushing that campaign until after they win the championship. But I'm very proud of Anthony Davis. I'm very proud of this team for fighting back and sticking together. And I'm just excited for Game 3.
I am too. Well, let's get to it. We got a few minutes, so let's get to Game 3 and let's see if we get this Lakers win tonight. So, Vinay, as always, man, thanks
Hey,
for coming on.
of course, Alex. Hopefully, we'll be tweeting about a Laker win afterwards.
Hey, we will.
All right, peace out.